Got a Honda in the shop, and the complaint is that the AC isn't cooling very well, and apparently there's some idle issues. I believe another shop already looked at it, but let's check it out, see if we can't figure out what's going on. Yep, it's hot out today. Ooh, this vehicle is hot. It's been sitting out in the sun, and yeah, it's pretty darn warm in here. Sure wish the AC worked. Alright, before we bring it in, I just want to see if it's going to act up on me out here in the sun when it's really hot. Because, you know, sometimes you pull in the shop, it cools off, and then everything's fine. So let's see what it's doing. I see that, you know, we have the car running, so let's check it out. And it looks like we got it on there. I heard the cooling fans come on. Yeah, it feels like it might be 124 degrees in here inside here. It's pretty darn warm. Now let's see what it's going to start blowing out of the vents here. Alright, that's interesting. You can check out the idle right there. Looks like it's idling okay with the AC on, but it's on low. Of course, we can't really see. The numbers or the indicators are kind of messed up. But it looks like it might be working, because look, we've dropped down to 97, a cool 97, and 95. So it seems like the AC is working a little bit. It's definitely doing something. But it seemed like when I turned it higher, let's see what it does. When I turned it higher, all of a sudden it started acting up. Not sure if you can see that, but it's 87 right now, 86, so it's definitely going down. So it's cooling. I'm not going to say it's cooling great, but it's cooling. You know, and it's when it's 125 degrees inside the vehicle, it takes a little while to cool off. Okay, looks like we've stabilized at about 70. Now that was on, you know, about 2 or 3. And when that air is coming across our evap down there a little bit slower, it gives a little more chance for that air to cool off and heat to exchange before it comes out. When you turn it on higher, it definitely puts more of a load on it, and it's harder to get that heat transfer. So let's turn it up. I can feel it put a little more load on the engine, and I can feel that it doesn't like it. You can see that, I don't know if you can tell, but our RPMs, they drop a little bit and then go up high. So we got fluctuating RPMs here. And I don't know if you can see, we were at 70. Now look, we're at 90. Just by turning it from, you know, what we were at 2 or 3 up to full blast, we started causing issues with our idle, and this thing isn't doing anything anymore. Not 94, 95. Now it's starting to get really hot in here. Now I'm curious, if we turn it back down, what happens? We're still fluctuating, that's for sure. Not as fast. I can feel the AC compressor clutch kicking in, and it's dropping the RPMs, and then it seems like the engine computer's turning it off. So it's putting a load on the system, and then the engine computer's recognizing that and turning it off. And that's why we're getting that fluctuation in the idle. It's trying to compensate for that compressor clutch kicking in, and it doesn't like it, so it's turning it off. And you can see we're at 100 now. It's hot. Okay, so this is what's happening. So let's go in the shop and see if we can check it out and get this thing fixed. Actually, let's turn off the AC, turn it off all the way. Watch our idle. So our idle's perfect. It's definitely fluctuating when we have the AC on. This is what we'll be working on today, a 2010 Honda Civic EX. And you saw it's hot out today, so I got to run the cooler. And because I got to leave the door open, I can't run the AC. I got to run the old swamp cooler. I'm going to hook up the scan tool, see if there are any trouble codes. We'll just scan all the systems, see if there's anything. We do have some fault codes, but they're in the ABS and TPMS. I'm not sure they're going to help us. Looking at our fault codes real quick. In our ABS system, we got a 61-1. That's going to be low voltage in our ABS modulator. And then we got a bunch of low pressure TPMS codes. So those are not going to help us fix our problem today. Seeing as we have the scan tool hooked up, we'll turn the vehicle on, look at some scan data, see if it can tell us anything. Alright, at an idle with the AC off, I pulled up some data PIDs that I wanted to look at. ECT1 sensor, 212 degrees. ECT2 is going to be 203 degrees. Our calculated load value at 37. At idle, we really don't want to see it go above 40. We're really at the high end right there. And you can see our AC is off. Our AC pressure is sitting at least the high side is sitting at 182. And AC clutch off, and our fans are off. So really, I want to see the cooling fans come on. They should be coming on and cooling that down a little bit. So we'll see what happens. I'll let it go a little bit longer. Well, as soon as I said that, fans just kicked on. So we can look down here. Yeah, our fan control is on. And we should be able to watch that temperature go down. So now we've got to peek under there and see if both fans are working. If only one is working, then that's going to be an issue, but we want to make sure both fans are working. Well, while we're waiting for the fans to come on, let's check the coolant level. Well, of course, there's the fan. Looks like they're both working. Alright, now that the fans went off, let's check our coolant level. And well, it all but disappeared. When the fans came on, or right before the fans came on, I was looking in here, and it was right at the bare minimum level. And now, some of it got sucked into our cooling system, and now I don't even see any. But yeah, for just a second ago, it was right at the minimum level. So, for sure, we got to add some coolant. This thing is definitely a little low on coolant. Alright, I added a little bit of coolant. It's right between the min and the max. Hopefully you can tell that. As the coolant, level fluctuates, it shouldn't go any higher than the max. If it comes a little bit above it, that's fine. But now we should be staying in between the min and the max for the most part. Alright, with the AC off, it seems to be idling perfectly. The fans seem to be cycling on and off just like they're supposed to be. One thing we'll look at, there's our AC compressor down there at the bottom. And if we can see, hopefully you can see the face of it right there. It's not turning. Now where the pulley, or where the belt is, it's turning, but the outside of it is not turning. So right now our compressor clutch is not engaged. So we're going to want to turn on the AC and watch and make sure that that engages. And over here we can watch our data. Our AC switch is off right now. We want to see that go to on, and our AC clutch is off. And we want to see that data PID go to on. Okay, we'll do like before. We'll just do it like 2. We've got max AC, so let's go see what it does. Right now, looks like it's not fluctuating our idle. Our data PID shows AC switch on, AC clutch on. And we can see that our pressure has gone up from about 150 or 160. Now we're at about 325. That's pretty darn high. Hopefully you can tell it's down there running, it's spinning, it's engaged. And let's see what our vent temps are doing. Looks like it's going down. I can feel it. It's at least blowing cool air. It might not be ice cold, but it's cool. And we can see running our AC with those fans running continuously has dropped our ACT down to 177, and our number 2 is 156. Our calculated load value is above 50 now, and we can see that our AC clutch is still on. It has not cycled on and off, it just stayed on. Looking at our vent temps, looks like we've stabilized right around 68. It will probably still drop if we keep running it here in the shop, because it'll cool off the ambient air that it's pulling in. But yeah, we're definitely not, really cold, but it's cool. It definitely seems to be working. And the AC compressor clutch still has not, gone on and off. So now let's try to duplicate the problem by turning our blower motor all the way up. See what happens. Our calculated load value went up a little bit. Our AC pressure has spiked over 400 now. 350, 390. It's definitely fluctuating quite a bit. It's not cycling the clutch on and off like it was when we were outside though. I think we were outside, we're making that AC pressure go up a little too high, and if it maxes out, the engine computer will shut it down because it senses an issue. I'm not sure if that's what was happening. We didn't have the scan tool on it at that time, but there's a good possibility. But if that's really our pressure, that's definitely too high on a little Civic like this. And like before, our cooling has definitely diminished. Alright, let's shut this thing down and put some AC gauges on here. Oh, I spoke too soon. Now we're doing it. And we can see that our clutch, everything is cycling on and off. Yep, our fluctuating is definitely coinciding with the AC turning itself on and off. Alright, now we'll shut it down, put some pressure gauges on here. And just like before, once we shut everything off, our idle goes back to normal. Everything seems to be just fine. Now I have a dedicated AC machine, so we'll go ahead and hook up our gauges to the high and low. Okay, got the gauges hooked up. And looking at our low and our high side, we want to see these pressures, you know, pretty close to the same after the system's been turned off and everything's equalized. Now, depending on the system, it can take a little while for this to happen, but we look like we're pretty close right now. Alright, we'll fire the car up again, and then we'll turn the AC on. I'll try to just turn it on the low setting. Try to get it to not act up right now. Let's see what it does. Okay, after letting everything stabilize for a little bit, the low side's right about 30. High side about 220, 215-ish, right in there. Looks like our vent temp right about 64 degrees right now. It's actually blowing pretty cool. It's not too bad. And we have to take into consideration what is our temperature going in compared to what it's coming out. That's the delta, or the difference. It's probably almost 90 to 95, maybe even 100 degrees right now going in. And so if we're dropping at 40 degrees, that's not bad at all. Alright, I pulled up the scan tool data. Looks like everything just went off. So our pressure just dropped. And now we cycled back on. I don't know if you can hear that. We just went back on. So I wanted to compare what the pressure sensor is showing here. So 216, 218. Looking over here, looks like we're pretty close, 212. Yeah, I'm going to say that this pressure sensor is very accurate. It's working. And so if it is accurate, that means that it was seeing, pressures above 400. And obviously that's not good on our Honda system. They don't run that high. And I believe if it hits 455 PSI, that's when the computer will shut everything down. And that may have been what happening. It could have been happening so fast that, the scan tool wasn't updating fast enough to see it going that high. But right now, everything seems to be working okay. It seems to stabilize when it's running at about 28 and 205 to 210. Then the compressor will kick off, which is pretty normal. Our pressure will rise to about 45 or 50, this will drop to about, where is it going to go? 175, maybe a little lower. And as soon as it kicks back on, you can see we're right here. When we kick back on, it'll dip down a little bit. And typically it'll stabilize right back up at 28. And then this, 205 to 210-ish. AC pressures will change with temperature. And you can see we're at 98 degrees in the shop today, so it's pretty warm. I did notice that it sucked that coolant right into the system. I might have to add a little more. Well, I added some more coolant. We'll just keep an eye on it. And our vent temps are sitting around 61, 62 degrees in here. Alright, I turned it all the way up. Let's see if we can get it to act up. Right away, our vent temps are going up. We'll keep an eye on our pressures and see what happens. Both the low and the high have gone up a little bit. Now they're just kind of sitting there. And the AC system is not cycling on and off anymore. And we've stabilized at about 73. So it's not acting silly and goofy right now, but that's not great. Okay, I shut everything down. Now what do we know? We know that our pressures were definitely too high, and that was causing the compressor to go on and off. And I believe that was the engine computer shutting it down. I do believe that that sensor is working properly on the high side. I think our pressures were indeed getting that high. Now what can cause that? Well, possibly a bad compressor, but usually it's going to be some kind of restriction in the system, or we have too much refrigerant in here. I do believe that this vehicle went to a shop because of the poor performance, and supposedly they topped it off, which I'm not a big fan of. So we're going to have to recover the refrigerant and measure it and see how much was in there. Let's grab a light. Okay, looking at our coolant level, we're right up to the max line, so that's good. So we were definitely low on coolant, which is a concern. Was the system worked on and maybe there was some air in there that worked its way out? I don't know. Is it using coolant? We have a blown head gasket or something? Well, that's always a possibility. I don't see any obvious leaks for coolant anywhere, but anytime our cooling system is not working properly, that can affect our AC systems. They work hand in hand, so if one's getting too hot, imagine the other one's probably going to get too hot also. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and recover all the refrigerant. We'll put it under a vacuum for a little bit, make sure we get all and any moisture out of it, and then we'll go ahead and recharge it with the proper amount. Looking at the sticker, which I took a picture of, we want, always on a Honda, we're going to charge it to the max, which is 450 kilograms or 15.9 ounces. So that's what we're going to put in. And we'll see how much we take out. See if it's pretty close to 450 or not. And of course we want to put the correct refrigerant in. In this case it's 134A, and we need to put the correct refrigerant oil, which is bag 46. Okay, 450 kilograms. 450 kilograms. We're going to go ahead and vacuum for 45 minutes. We'll do a leak test, and then we're going to do PAG 46. I want you to take a look at something. This bottle right here is the PAG oil or refrigerant oil that was recovered from the system when I recovered all the refrigerant. And we can see, hopefully you can see the line where the oil is, just a little bit above this line right here, which is 25. So it's about 26 or 27 milliliters. That's what these measurements over here are, milliliters. Okay, I stopped the machine, so let's look at what we got. We recovered 0.622 kilograms, and we know we should only have 0.450 kilograms in there. So this was severely overcharged. And 26 milliliters is way too much. And if I would have let my machine continue on automatic, it would have put 26 back in there. I pulled up some service data, from Honda for refrigerant oil for this vehicle, and you can see right here listed in milliliters how much you're supposed to add back in whenever you replace one of these components. Well, what it doesn't list is how much for just, you know, recovering and recharging the refrigerant. Well, it doesn't tell you. All it says is just put back the same amount that, you know, came out with the refrigerant. Well, most of the time in my experience, it's between 3 and 5 milliliters. The most I've seen on this generation Civic is 7 milliliters. So I really don't want to put 26 milliliters back in. In my opinion, that's too much. I think somebody at some point has put too much oil on this, and I don't want to contribute to that. So we're going to err on the side of caution. We're going to add 10 milliliters back in, which would be if we replaced a line or a hose. If we add a little too much oil, we're going to be fine. If we add way too much oil, we can reduce the cooling efficiency of the refrigerant. And obviously, if we don't have enough oil, we can ruin things like the compressor. I don't think our problem is not enough oil. I think it's too much. So I'm going to go with 10 milliliters just based on experience. All right, put it under a vacuum for 45 minutes, and we did a leak test and it passed. We see our charge is complete. We put 450 kilograms back in and 10 milliliters of oil. The refrigerant is recharged. We're going to do some pressure readings now. Alright, we're starting off at about 103 degrees in here. We'll fire it up and we'll see what it does. And I have it all the way on max. We'll let it stabilize a little bit. It's bouncing around between about 35 and 36 and holding steady at about 175. The clutch is not cycling. With it on high, the idle is rock solid. No issues. Our temperatures are not great though, bouncing between 73 and 74 degrees. Okay, so we learned a little bit by recovering the refrigerant and adding the proper amount back in. Now we know that, you know, it was overfilled just looking at how much refrigerant we pulled out. Now what happens when you overfill, you know, overcharge the system like what was going on here? Well, it puts a real strain on that compressor, and I think that's what we were seeing. The compressor, you know, was struggling, especially when we turned that blower all the way up, putting more load on that evap core. So we're putting more strain on the system, and it was having trouble, and the pressures were spiking. So the system was definitely not happy having it overcharged. Now, I could not catch it in the act doing it, you know, when I connected the gauges. Why is that? Well, let's think about it. I connected these long hoses over to my machine, and when I keep them, you know, not in use, they're under a vacuum. They have a seal on there. So when I connected it and opened the valve, a bunch of refrigerant filled our lines, and so that took some of the refrigerant out of the system, and I think it was just enough to ease the strain on it, and then we were not seeing that fluctuating idle and all that other stuff. So now we know everything is working properly, but our vent temperatures are still a little too high. So now we got to figure out, why is our vent temperature a little too high? And I think this was the, you know, first issue. I think the owner saw the vent temperatures, he's driving along, and all of a sudden the vent temperatures are too high. Takes it to a shop, and I believe they topped it off, and they put too much refrigerant in there. And then that, not only do we have high vent temperatures, now we have, you know, it seems like the engine's under a strain when you turn the AC on, and it can cause drivability issues. I've seen drivability issues when, you know, we overcharge these systems, especially Hondas. So now we have to find the root cause of everything. Why is our vent temperature still too high when our pressures and our refrigerant level, everything is good? I want to show you a big cause of elevated vent temperatures, and not a lot of people think about it. I'm going to go right under here. This right here is our blend door actuator on this vehicle. Some vehicles have one, like this one. Some vehicles have two. One on this side, one on the other side. And that is controlling a door in there that blends our cold air and our hot air, just like that. And so what happens is they go bad, and they will move a little bit, and it'll start allowing hot air in. you know, because the coolant is going through our heater core over there. So there's hot coolant. Usually on many of these newer Honda systems, hot coolant is going through there all the time. So if that blend door moves a little bit, now we got hot air mixing just a little bit, and it causes our vent temperatures to elevate just a little bit. So we need to check this out, see if it's working properly. I fired up the vehicle again. We'll let everything kind of equalize. I have the AC on high. So we'll look at our vent temperatures, and when we're confident that it's low, it's as low as it's going to go, then we'll do some checks. Coolant level still rock solid. Looks like we're stabilizing right about 73 or so. Okay, now we'll keep an eye on the vent temperature, and we'll go over here, and I'm going to turn this all the way to hot, and that's going to move our actuator down there, and hopefully that kind of wakes it up. And when we move it, what we want to see it go to hot, of course, when we turn it all the way to H or all the way to the red. And when we go back, we want that door to move all the way back. And sometimes just moving it like that will move it all the way back to our cold position, and then we can see if it goes lower than 73. So let's try it right now. We'll go all the way to hot, and we'll see what our vent temps do. Okay, I can feel that the door moved. I can feel the pressure change, and we see that it's getting pretty hot pretty fast. All right, I think that's hot enough. Now we'll go back cold, and we'll see if it goes back to only 73. You can see we're definitely going lower than 73. And after letting things stabilize a little bit, our vent temps are 49 degrees. So after just a short little while, you know, we dropped it over 20 degrees just by manipulating our blend door actuator. So what does that tell us? That tells us we have a bad blend door actuator. And you know, 49.6 degrees it's reading right now. That's not too bad considering the shop is 95.9 degrees. So 96 degrees, and we're blowing 49 out here. That's not a bad delta differential. So what's the fix for this? Well, because we were able to just manipulate the vent temperature and get it to work right away, I believe we have a bad blend door actuator. I don't think we have any wiring or control issues or anything like that. And we just need to get a new blend door actuator and get it replaced. I believe that's the fix for this vehicle. And while I was sitting here waiting for the vent temps to stabilize, I had that blower motor all the way on high, and I was keeping an eye on the idle. That idle was rock solid. No issues with the idle now that we've corrected the proper refrigerant charge. Well, that's it for this one. I don't know for sure what happened with this, whether, you know, the other shop topped it off and put too much refrigerant in or not. But all I do know is there were two different issues. Too much refrigerant was wreaking havoc on the system, and a bad blend door motor, or as Honda calls it, an air mix motor. So that's going to be the fix. Now we just need to get a new air mix motor and get that thing installed. And as always, if the video helped you out, you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.